I've been meaning to write this for a while now. I've read the book once, watched the movie a few times, and a few times more for this, and it still amazes me people call this something other than what I see. Karl Marx's Evolution of Capitalism. The most fundamental principle, from each according to their abilities to each according to their needs. The issue I have here, however, is communism itself is often conflated with its less ideal forms, the USSR, North Korea, and so on. I'm referring to Marx's utopia, where, post a capitalistic world full of demerit goods and excesses, enlightenment has been achieved. How exactly does this look? I don't know. What I imagine is something similar to Starship Troopers. Now, you might be wondering, how can I say that? How can I be sure? Well, I can't. I'm no PhD expert in all things Marx, politics, and economics. On a funny side note, considering the script has existed for years at this point, from the way the world is going right now, I don't think anyone is. So without further ado, here we have Arachne's take on the political and economic situation in Starship Troopers. So, if I'm saying this is the communist ideal, what am I looking to prove? I'm looking for a society with low incentive to R&D, controlled by a centralized source of power, taking from the population to their abilities to reward them for their needs. Furthermore, since this is Marx's supposed global ideal, I should show this on a global scale. I need to show a relatively equal access to the global currency, and how those who need more can access it. I also want to point out that since this ideal is post-capitalism, where the world has become enlightened and the workers have successfully revolted, this does not mean luxury goods do not exist, merely that they have not evolved. It also does not mean that society has no outlet to entertainment and wealth, just that these are of lesser importance. By my understanding of the utopia, those who wish for a sports car can have one, however for personal satisfaction and not egotistical desires, i.e. to have and not to show off. Outside of the fighting, the movie starts off with some advertisements. It is well known for the "would you like to know more?", which ironically is exactly where the world has come to with clickbait, singles in your area, and even how popular media sites run their content. I think the most telling here is the "I'm doing my part" sequence, even with a young child contributing to societal achievement. That this is normal, a child advertising military enlistment. The other big hint for me is how self-aggrandizing the government is on their achievements. Capitalism, as a society, is more of a self-congratulatory environment. You do well, you get rewards. Those rewards may or may not be publicized. The need for the government to have these statements is that even here, it is not quite utopia, and this communist government deals with it comparably to how the historical ones have done. Regardless, the bug meteor is shot down, and the public is again reminded of the necessity of recruitment. To fight! This is where the movie starts, the invasion, which we'll soon find out is a cut forward in time that goes horribly wrong. And the cut back. Johnny Rico, square jaw, broad shoulders, and, spoiler, eventually the military's poster boy. The school sequence is important, as it highlights the failure of social sciences, something that, at least in the present day, seeks to divide more than unite, the antithesis of a cohesive communist community. The use of power through the use of force is legitimized in the movie, where the veteran sees power. This is a sequence of events which, in all fairness, is something I feel the world has forgotten lately. The use of force and power is legitimate as a political tool. Okay, this line was written in 2020, but I kept it in since everyone seems so surprised. It also highlights something that is often overlooked. They are dissecting giant bugs, and the unconventional biology teacher talks about the bugs in reference. Now, I'm making the assumption here that this bug is an arachnid and not some post-nuclear cockroach. This assumption is actually important to why I believe the way I do, that this is an arachnid and that non-conformist colonists, before the meteor, were attacked by arachnids, shows that the Earth was aware of, but discounted, the threat from these aliens. This shows, drumroll please, a low incentive and desire for innovation and research. Why understand them? For now, I accept this point as determined. In fact, in the more realistic sense of socialism, the arachnids even serve as a suitable blame for dealing with government ascension. I know, pointing out that doesn't seem very idealistic, but it's never proven that it wasn't the arachnids. Moving on. We now get to a slight hitch in my theory. Johnny Rico's parents are civilians, or heavily implied. due to their anti-military viewpoint and the very pro-military viewpoint we will see from military veterans. The dad is even willing to take 10 lashes in the public square to show his commitment to his son. This form of punishment is very public and not something you see in the modern capitalist society. Punishment here is public and shameful. Furthermore, by serving in the military, new options are unlocked for life, from each to each. Wealth as a form of prestige is discounted for power, the premium currency of the era, something everyone has equal access to through service. Public punishment is a reduction in the authority and power you are perceived to have, but not actually have, hence the dad's willingness. More on this later. Second point time. How is the society global? First hint. Disney is applying to play professional mixed-gender football for Tokyo. As we later learn, they live as Buenos Aires, Argentina. Cut back. I'm on a horse. Wait. We cut back to the school teacher. Figuring things out for yourself is the only freedom anyone really has. Now, I'm going to read way too much into this. Meta-humor. But if society has no personal freedoms and have to put themselves at high risk to achieve previously readily available rights, this seems somewhat communistic. It is also, according to my proofreader, and Carl Benjamin, somewhat fascist. I disagree. Again, I'm no expert. Fascism has a centralized authority with a dictatorial control and a somewhat capitalist system. First off, R&D is incentivized under capitalism, a point I've already discounted. Secondly, while the military seems to have authority, it is concentrated in the system, not the person, shown later. Thirdly, while later movies show the military as leading the government, the book in this movie implies the veterans, those post-military service, lead. They give civilians the opportunity to access this power based on their abilities and join those supposed fascist elites. It is a feature of fascism to have dictators and a feature of communism to, in practice, have a ruling clique. Further confirming this through the following link. Carl, I will talk through this extensively in the post-credits just for you. I see more communism linkages than fascism. Correct me, criticize them. Moving on. Even the voluntary oath for military service is for at least 2 years and as much more is required. From each. The military vet recruitment officer is missing limbs. In my theory, not due to a war with arachnids, indicated by the poor research on the bugs. The book actually describes the various wars Terra has been in better, instant death rays and the like. Bugs are better, and still proud of his service, still useful, and sounds remarkably well balanced. And now, we cut back to the government saying the government is doing a good job. Crime is immediately punished, children are encouraged to become citizens, and by extension the military veterans, rule. The ruling proletariat is advertising itself and not the next war. Now we cut back to those Mormons mentioned earlier. Every child knows that the arachnids are the boogeyman that come for you in the night if you don't toe the party line, except for the military, who is woefully underprepared for any form of structured intelligence and or aggression from these very same arachnids. Again, not very utopian. However, it is a very common human trait to find comfort or belonging in a united front. The Communist Revolution of 1917 did exactly that, as did Mr. Hitler in 1934. Now, for the military boot camp. Yes, this movie does actually jump around a lot, and I want to talk in order as opposed to by topic. We get introduced to someone who wants to be better and is immediately shut down for an improper attitude. Injuries are common and soldiers are treated as replaceable. Individual potential is ignored for the expendability of civilians. Brutal training to prove points, even at the expense of recruits, is encouraged. Now we get to more communism. From each, to each, serve and get college, babies, the license to practice journalism and law. It's even worse when you realize the intense indoctrination that the soldiers must go through, that these lawyers and journalists will be pro-system, and dismissive of those that just don't get it, like Rico's father, like Rico himself to his own father. Now we get to the action part. It is telling, in a way, that I'm 3/4 of the way through my script at this point. Buenos Aires is attacked and the entire area is devastated. The fires go for miles, but no bugs attack the base. Therefore, no bugs escaped Buenos Aires through broken walls. Or the base is nowhere close to Buenos Aires. A very, very small indicator, but I'm taking it. Global society confirmed. Also, the boot camp is multiracial, which doesn't actually mean that much, and all have the same accents, which means little until you realize that Buenos Aires has no Latin American English accent. Now to head this off, I do not believe they all speak English. I believe they speak the same language. See Star Wars and galactic bases. Cue more propaganda to incite hate against bugs. And then, the Sky Marshal accepts immediate social responsibility and is replaced by someone completely different. Short to his tall, dark-skinned to his pale, female to his male. Ability is not prevented by race, gender, or discrimination. Ironically, this is both an accepted attribute of capitalism and communism, and not one of fascism. The Sky Marshal immediately accepts that he is out of place and steps down to one more qualified. In capitalism, the organization is allowed to fail due to the shortcomings of the one. In fascism, the dictator is absolute. Now, without further examination into the workings of the government, and no news broadcast announcing the order of their resignation, I am assuming that this decision was personal, his personal belief in his abilities to lead. The scene where the scientists are discussing the concept of a brain bug is interesting, in that there is no clear winner in the debate, and is almost like the one whose anti is given the louder voice. If this is true, considering the system control of the media, the government is controlling information to keep the public calm. Superior humans will win. This is not contradicted by later events in the movie, and even encouraged, as every failure is blamed quickly, and every victory is celebrated loudly. To wrap up the propaganda videos shown in the movie regarding the arachnids, the cow, the brainstem, and even the brain bug all serve separate purposes. The cow shows how mindlessly aggressive the bug is, which is proven false when the brain bug is captured. The brainstem shows how easy it is to kill a bug, even though this is proven false time and time again. How do you hit a brainstalk on a moving target with 4 shields or limbs in the way and jerky movements? In practice, not that easy. And finally, the brain bug, assuming that the brain bug denier was the favorite candidate, shows how easily information is controlled. 1984, gotta love it. And how the brain bug is the new normal of society. Going forward, this is humanity wins. Finally, to tie this all together, we have a society that promotes intense loyalty to the system through service. Those who complete service are awarded special privileges, while those who choose to stay away, ironically the only indication of a capitalist structure, are allowed to function but not participate. Power is the currency through which people earn rewards, and power is itself earned and available to all those who risk it. Research and development are low unless required, and responsibility is immediate. If you are not with the system, you are used as propaganda, but allowed to exist within the system, and are not unfairly or unreasonably targeted otherwise. Ultimately, you are replaceable until your service is finished, upon which you are judged to have been found competent, post-intensive military training, to resume the life of a citizen, who by extension has gone through pro-government indoctrination. However, everyone still has access to global services and facilities, even if those with more abilities are rewarded better to their needs. It is easier to get a baby if you're a citizen, not impossible. Comparing to my initial requirements, I am looking for a society with low incentive to R&D, controlled by a centralized source of power, and taking from the population to their abilities to reward them for their needs. Sounds pretty communist to me. You're welcome to comment below and let me know your thoughts, and to make suggestions for my next topic. My current plan is a video every 2 weeks, as I do have some written already, and the next one will probably be in time. P.S. While new normal seems like a worrying trend, worry more about people who don't even react to how normal can change with no outcry. P.P.S. Football nukes. Awesome!